Buy the latest iPhone from Vodafone. And thanks to our annual upgrade promise, you can then get the latest iPhone every year with no upgrade fees. Yeah, you heard it right. It's simple. Trade in your iPhone after 12 months when you get a new plan, and you can enjoy that new iPhone feeling every year. It's a great time to switch to Vodafone. Ready? Vodafone.
Upgrade after 12 months, current contract will end. A new 24-month term upfront and monthly cost will apply. Terms and exclusions at vodafone.co.uk.
Welcome to Cosmopolitan's All the Way With. I'm Laura Capon.
I'm Paisley Gilmore, and this week we'll be joined by Carla, who just attended her first virtual sex party.
Someone's been busy.
Well, what else have people got to do, Elsie?
I don't know, cross-stitch?
Well, actually, do you know what they are doing a lot of?
What?
Oh, you wouldn't believe it, but I got an email this week saying the one industry that is booming is the affairs industry.
As in extramarital affairs?
That's correct. People...
Why does it sound so terribly scripted?
It literally isn't. Genuinely, it's not scripted. Yeah, so you know cheating sites like illicit encounters?
Obviously not. I don't even have a boyfriend, let alone a boyfriend to cheat on, Paisley.
I'm sorry, rubbing salt in the wound. Well, people go on these sites like Illicit Encounters and Ashley Madison because they want to have affairs or they want to sleep with people who are married. And this week, Illicit Encounters emailed me and said they've seen an 18% rise in activity from men and a 12% rise in activity from women. So since lockdown, more people are having affairs, would you believe?
That is really bold as well, isn't it? But some people love that element of kind of being caught. Yeah, which makes me think that's why they're also going for it. It adds like an extra bit of sauce into the mix.
The danger. What I was thinking was, so say like you're in your study and you're on your computer and you're having your affair, and then your wife or your husband comes in and brings a cup of tea. You're like, oh, I'm watching porn. Like, what do you... I don't get the logistics of it.
I know. And then surely there's that like real kind of guilt. And also they can't consummate the affair either. So, it'd just be like flirtation upon flirtation. And then with the extra 3 weeks lockdown, they're probably boiling over with rage.
Or sexual frustration. Well, you say that they can't... have sex, but although like obviously loads of them are having sex on Zoom and stuff, I interviewed a couple of people this week and one of them broke lockdown to go and shag his affair woman.
Well, I'm going to report him to Boris.
Isn't that terrible? Yeah, tell Boris it's not on. We all want to be having sex, all right?
I mean, I'm happy cross-stitching, but what I don't want to do is cause a spread in a pandemic.
Well, anyway, thought you'd enjoy that tidbit. And to be honest, as much as I'm laughing about it and don't want to go all school teacher on ULC, it does go without saying that affairs can like really destroy people's lives and have real life repercussions on them and their kids and their families. So as much as we're joking about it, it's not really on, is it? Anyway, should we bring on Carla?
Yeah. We're joined today by Carla, not her real name, to be clear, who recently attended her first ever sex party online. Before lockdown, Carla and her partner had become members of sex party community Kittens. They planned to attend an IRL sex party, but instead have been logging in to have virtual sex in front of strangers for the past few weeks.
I'm obsessed with this already.
I mean, I've got so many questions, as per usual.
Can't wait to meet her. So hi, Carla. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thanks. Yeah.
So I've told Laura briefly about your story, but would you mind telling us kind of from the beginning a little bit about your relationship leading up to your virtual sexual explorations?
So we've been together for 8 years this year and always had, a lot of fun and enjoyed trying things. And then we had 2 children. And obviously that kind of thing just gets put on the back burner a little bit. We just decided now that our children are a little bit older, we're like, actually, we don't have to just be parents. We can try fun things. I found the Killing Kittens thing online years and years ago. So always knew about it, but I'd never really had the opportunity to try anything like that, and suggested it to him, and he was quite willing.
What a surprise.
understatement of the century.
Sorry, could you just explain, because some people might not know what Killing Kittens is. Could you explain what it is?
So they organise what are essentially sex parties, but it's all sort of female led. So no single men are allowed. Men can only go as part of a couple. Men can't approach women. And that's even the case where they have chat groups for people to get to know each other beforehand. And even on the chat groups, men can't send a private message to a woman without asking permission and things. So it is all really sort of female led and more about female empowerment, I think, because I know that there's a kind of sort of a tendency for people to think that anything in that kind of way is all about basically men dragging their girlfriends along because they want to see lots of other women and things, and it is just really not the case with Killing Kittens. It is sort of quite female led.
And how did you hear about them, Carla? Like, had you gone to sex parties when you were younger, like before your kids, or
No, never. No. So when I was younger, I used to read, my parents used to buy the News of the World, and they used to always have these like scandalous investigations every weekend where they'd uncovered some kind of, club or something like that. And I remember as a teenager, I would read these before it got torn out and hidden away because we weren't allowed to read things like that. And I'd just read them and go, yeah, that sounds fun. I could see why people do that. So I sort of knew they existed, but didn't know that they existed sort of in an accessible way that anybody can go. And then I think it was in a magazine article, because it came out, I think there was a contestant on maybe The Apprentice or something like that had been involved, and she'd gone to these things and she was quite vocal about it, and it was printed in a lot of things, and some things were really like, wow, isn't that great, good for her, and some things were a bit more like, what scandal. So I'd heard about it through that was quite a number of years ago, and I was firmly in the that sounds really good camp, but was never really sort of brave enough to do that kind of thing. And it was only like as I've got older that I just thought, well, why can't I? Why can't I do something like that? Who says you can't? So yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And you hadn't tried swinging or anything. This was your first dabble.
Sorry.
Yeah, there we go.
No, never. I'd never really done anything involving sort of other people before. No.
But obviously that was before lockdown.
Yes.
So had you booked to go to one and then it got cancelled, or?
Yeah. So what happened was I joined the site, like set up a username and things last year just to be nosy really and go like, how does this work? And then this year I suggested it to my partner, and he was like, yeah, that sounds good, why not? And I was like, well, here's one I prepared earlier, I've got a login. And he was like, oh right, when did you do that? And I was like, last week, and then logged us in, and he was like, the username has got 2019 in it, so that gave it away a little bit. So you have to sort of like pay a fee to get full access to the site, and then you have to go through this verification process for security, like obviously to keep people safe, where you have to like take a photo of you holding a sign up with something specific written on it and things like that. So we did all of that, and then we said, oh, there's because we live in the north, and we said there's a party, like, because a lot of them are in London. We're like, oh, there's one in Manchester in April. We should go to that. And we were like, yeah, we'll definitely go to that. And then lockdown happened. So obviously that all got cancelled, which is how they've started doing online parties instead.
We're interested in this because we can't fathom how a virtual online sex party actually works. So could you...
I mean, I'm sure Paisley can, but I really can't.
To be honest, I think part of the reason that we said we would try it was because it wasn't very expensive and the money went to charity. And we're like, this is either going to be like interesting or it's going to be absolutely hilarious. And we sort of thought, well, for the money we would spend on it, we could spend that on snacks from the corner shop. So had to watch a film. So it was like, well, why not? It's either, if it's terrible, then we just close the laptop and we never ever have to speak of it again. It's not like you're there with actual people. You can just go, this is a bit crap, and close your computer and go. Or it would be good, or alternatively it could be really funny. So we decided to do it anyway. When we didn't know what to expect, but there were sort of like hosts from Killing Kittens moving everything along. So they got everybody in and they mute everybody so that everyone isn't talking over each other. And then the host did a few like introductions, so they will pick one person and they're unmuted and they can speak to everyone, and they had to sort of like say who they were. And it's a bit like, you know, when you go to those team building exercises from work and it's like go around in a circle and say something about yourself, and you're like, please don't get to me, please run out of time before you get to me.
Was everyone in a couple as well, or were there single people, single women?
No, there were 2 or 3 single women. We'd done 2 of them, and there were a couple of single women at each of them.
And you can see like everyone's face as well. Like it's not like eyes wide shut.
So there are masks at first.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, there we go.
So masks were like compulsory at first, and we didn't realise that. I knew they were for the actual parties, and that made sense because everyone dresses up and it's like sort of a themed thing. But I didn't realise you'd have to wear a mask in your own home, like in front of a computer. So we didn't have any masks. So my partner got sent to Tesco half an hour before to raid the party section. And we had glittery cardboard elasticated masks.
Oh, that could have been so much worse though. I thought you were going to have like a clown mask and like a tiger.
So you've got your Tesco party section masks on, and you log in and people are being introduced, and then what happens?
I've just got one more question. Are you wearing clothes? Sorry.
Yes.
I've never been to a virtual sex party, Paisley.
Sorry. Amateur.
So I the first time so I was trying to get the laptop to connect to the TV and have it like all connected up, and I was like, this will be really, really good. So I was so late that I was messing after he went to go and get the Tesco party masks, that I was still fiddling around with the laptop when the thing started, and I realized that everyone could now see like our camera, and I wasn't properly dressed. I was still in my underwear. So I was like, oh no. So I had to like sort of crawl behind the laptop to go out of the other door to go upstairs to get my dress, to come downstairs. Came downstairs, got myself on the sofa, said like, you know, what have I missed? And I look, and everyone else is just there in their underwear. And I was like, needn't have bothered.
And did you have any like shyness about that? Like I would be shy even about that strangers were seeing me in my like pants, but I would wish I could have your confidence in that way of like not caring.
For me, I think it was the thing of, I don't know any of these people. I most likely might never come into contact with them again. Everyone else is doing the same thing. So I felt fine about it. Whereas I would feel embarrassed maybe if it was someone that I knew. Like my worst horror would be like seeing, you know, someone from work like on like screen 4, and you're like, oh Jesus, this is going to be awkward at work. So no, I wasn't that bothered about it at all, because everyone was in the same boat, and the host from Killing Kittens sort of like made everyone quite relaxed and was sort of quite jokey. And they had then like these exercises, like activities of like, you know, like describe your sex life using only film titles. There was a text chat thing along the side, so everyone could put their answers in and everyone else could see them, and that was quite funny and relaxed everyone a little bit. And then there was an act. It was like a woman doing sort of like quite burlesque type dancing around a bath outside, which was all very strange, but sort of like it's good. Like it was good, and she was obviously very talented, but it was a bath outside, so it was really strange. And there were some quite funny comments in the text box about that. And I think maybe the fact that it was a little bit sort of out there and funny sort of made everyone relax a little bit. So that was quite interesting. And then after the act, then it went back to the Killing Kittens host, and she was like, oh, we'll do another activity. And then all of a sudden there were just 2 people having sex on the screen, because they decided that they were not interested in these activities, and they were already, maybe they really enjoyed the dancing, I don't know. But they wanted to go first or something, I have no idea, but they were already, you know, well on their way to what they were doing. And then after that, everyone else just seemed to go, hey, right, okay, then well, if that started, then we might as well join in. And then how it worked was, because everyone was muted and things, the hosts would put, because it was done on Zoom, so you know, you can put one person on the main sort of thing for everyone to see, and they would unmute that couple or person. I think they must have just monitored all the screens and looked for the most interesting ones at that time, and then just like put one as the one that everyone could see and hear.
Is it that
So-
thing like when you're at a concert and you see yourself on the big screen and you're like, yeah.
Yeah, there were a few people that like, and a few people that like didn't seem to know that they'd been unmuted, so that it was like really funny because you could like see people and they go, oh right, oh, everyone can hear us, oh okay then. So that was quite funny. And then there were a few people like, oh look, there's us.
When you were having sex with your partner, are you
Yeah.
watching the TV the whole time, or what is it that you prefer, like the idea that you're being watched or watching everyone else?
I think it was a bit of both, really. I think it's the thing of like, it's actual real people, if you know.
Hello, I'm Rachel Adedeji, and I'm here to tell you about a brand new podcast I'm hosting called The Power of Empathy, where we talk all about how you can develop children's empathy and social skills, brought to you by Barbie. I'll be talking about encouraging empathy with children's empathy expert, Dr. Michelle Borba, and journalist Victoria Richards. If you're not sure where to start, don't panic. We'll be exploring tips and tricks for the whole family.
Too often we think of it as soft and fluffy. It's not. It's transformational.
To hear the full episode, subscribe now on your favourite podcast platform.
I mean, because like porn on the internet can be sort of quite artificial and staged and things, whereas they were real people, and I think I liked that. I couldn't actually get the laptop to connect to the TV, so that didn't work. So we ended up with the laptop on the sofa. So I wasn't like sat there watching it the whole time, but I just had a little look, and like if there was something that I liked the look of, then obviously I would watch it. I think everyone seemed to do kind of the same thing from what I could tell.
What was that? What were they doing?
I mean, everyone was just sort of like not staring like at their laptops. They were just sort of looking and then doing whatever they were doing and then maybe looking. Like there was no one just sat there like intently watching their screen. I mean, from what you could tell.
And I guess the like single women, were they just masturbating?
Yeah, and there was one woman that was like sort of dancing, which I thought was quite cool because she was clearly just having a great time by herself, and that was like good for her. But yeah, other than that, they were just sort of just doing things to themselves.
And what was your partner's reaction to it? Did he enjoy it?
Yeah, I'd say so. he was quite apprehensive about it, which like sort of surprised me because he's a lot more confident than I am, and I expected him to be the one like that was sort of, you know, fine, and it was me that was a little bit nervous and things, but he was a bit sort of like, oh, I don't know what to expect. And then he said that he felt a bit strange when he looked and it changed like the grid view and he thought it was like 49 different screens. He was like, oh right, all of those people can maybe see us, and he felt a bit self-conscious, but I think it wore off quite quickly. But overall he really enjoyed it. And there was another one then advertised on the site for a week later, and it was him who was like, oh, should we do it again next week? That was quite fun, and it's probably going to be more fun if we know what to expect this time. So how is this going to work, like nerves were out of the way already.
And you already had your masks?
Well, yes, yeah, pack of 8. So we've got loads spare.
And what do they do when like someone, because obviously everyone's not gonna climax at the same time, if you will, what do they do? Do you just then you're like, oh, I'm done, log out? No,
so people were like just carrying on. So there were some people who were obviously having maybe like a little bit of a breather and just watching everyone else, but the person who's on the main screen, so the host choose who is like the main unmuted person that everyone can see and hear. That was always someone who was still sort of like doing things, and then you don't sort of see the other people unless you choose to go through the screens, if you know what I mean. So the person that you would see if you weren't clicking on things yourself was always someone who was still doing things.
And I know everyone's faces are covered, but could you tell, like, is everyone like, was it varying in ages?
Yeah, definitely. So the masks, you were allowed to take your mask off after the first act, which was when that other couple had everything off, so the masks were pretty redundant, to be fair. And they were like, you can take your masks off now if you want, and I could not be more relieved because they were very uncomfortable. And also I wear glasses, so I was trying to position this thing so I could actually see, but also like have a mask on. It was not good, so I was quite happy. But yeah, there was definitely a wide range of ages. So I think one of the things that I was really not self-conscious but a little bit worried about was I was thinking like, oh, what if everyone is like really young and fit and like looks like models or something.
Yeah.
And actually the vast majority were just sort of like average people, like, you know, just normal people like you would see like anywhere, like walk, but obviously with less clothes on, not walking around the street naked, but
just like you and I.
Yeah, so it was, I think I'd have felt a little bit more like self-conscious if everyone was like really sort of toned and fit and looked, you know, like they stepped out of some kind of magazine or something. And that was like quite nice really, because it just makes you think, oh, actually everyone's just the same really. So yeah, so that was nice. So there's a wide range of like, there was some sort of younger people. I say it ranged from about maybe 20s to maybe early 40s. There was no one like no, you know, like elderly people or anything like extreme like that. It was just sort of like 20s to early 40s, I'd say.
So what did you do differently the second time, now that you're a pro at Zoom sex party?
So I was not worried at all the second time. I think maybe I probably had a couple of extra drinks beforehand, because the first time I was just so nervous. I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to drink because I feel anxious and I don't want to drink and feel anxious and things. And the second time I was like, yeah, we'll just have like a couple of drinks and get ready and it'll be fine. And we knew the sort of routine of the introductions and then the act, and then we sort of knew what to expect, that after the first act that the sort of fun activity things would get dropped and everyone would probably just start the actual party thing. So it was a lot less worrying, and I didn't bother as much with the trying to worry about, you know, where should I put the laptop for the like optimum position, things like that. I was just a lot more relaxed about it, and I think that made it more fun.
Did you say to me that you created a kind of duvet on the floor sex party situation in your living room? I feel like Laura needs to hear about this.
I did. So there was like one couple who like had clearly created this like really sexy sort of like environment where they had like some velvet furniture and this like
not wipe clean
chair. No, exactly. And this like little chair and some like a nicely positioned side table and some candles and things. And meanwhile I was like, I don't want to be uncomfortable. I'm bringing the duvet down and I'm putting the duvet on the floor because I don't want to like my elbows to be digging into the floor. So when I saw that, I was a bit like, am I ruining it? Were we supposed to be like more sexy? But I still did it the second time as well, because it's like, if I'm uncomfortable, then I'm not going to relax and I'm not going to enjoy it. So if someone is there on their camera going, oh my God, look at her, she's put a duvet down, then so be it. I'll never know. So it doesn't matter really.
And how has it made you think about going to one in real life when obviously lockdown is over?
Yeah, I definitely would do it. Go to one of the actual parties, and I think I would be a lot less nervous now because I've got sort of a fair idea of like the kinds of people who go to these kind of things. So like I said, I was really worried that maybe you had to be sort of like massively attractive and things, and I was like, oh, what if I'm like below standard compared to everyone else? And I think I would be very worried about that. And now that I've sort of seen that everyone's just normal people and everyone's really nice as well, because there's the chat groups where everyone gets to chat to each other beforehand, and you just find that people are actually just really nice and accepting. So I think I would enjoy it a lot more now than I would do had I not had the opportunity to do the online parties. And I'd actually be sort of, if I was a new member now just joining, I'd be really happy if they carried on the online thing even when the social distancing and things like that is over, as a way for maybe slightly more apprehensive people to just sort of dip into it and go, oh well, maybe we could do this first and then go to a party, because I think it makes it a little bit more accessible for people who might be a bit nervous about jumping straight into that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. Do you, Laura? Are you interested?
I'm fascinated. I mean, I told you, I'm too scared to be in my pants in front of anyone. But I like the fact that you're saying that it's just, I don't want to say average people, but just regular folk. I don't know, in my head, like Killing Kittens, I just imagine it's just loads of like Instagram models.
Yeah, well, that was what I worried about at first, because I'd sort of had, I don't know why, but I had this impression that it was like, because of the verification thing, which is just like for security, I worried that it was more like a vetting procedure where you were like, because you had to take this photo and it's like, oh, are they like, is it an attractiveness scale or something? But it's really not. It's just because obviously they need to keep people safe and make sure that people are who they say they are. So I was very worried that it would all be, like you say, like Instagram model type people, and that I would be older than everyone and, you know, less attractive than other people. But it's just like people that you could meet like at work or, you know, in the street or anything. There are obviously attractive people there. I'm not saying that no one is attractive. I just mean it's not like unattainable, like where you think, oh, I feel crappy about myself because everyone here is like a model and I'm not. Even though there are some really, really very attractive people, they're also nice and friendly and things that you don't sort of feel out of place anyway.
That's really important. Before we go, I just wanted to ask you, did having other people there watching you and you watching them, did it make the sex you were having with your partner better? Like, did it enhance your sexual experience?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think the first time I was a little bit worried, and it was almost like are we supposed to be like not performing, but it was a kind of like, well, what are we supposed to do? Do we just do what we would normally do, or are we supposed to like copy everyone else, or, you know, is it supposed to be more of a taking into account that other people can see you kind of thing? And then you sort of quickly realize that everyone was really relaxed, and it was actually more fun than I expected it to be, because we did it on the thing of like, this is fascinating, how does this work, kind of like a curious type. We just wanted to see what goes on, basically. And then afterwards we were like, actually that was really good, and we both really enjoyed it. And like I say, we joined another one for a week later, so it did go well.
They're sold. I'm sold. So the moral of this story is you would recommend it to anyone maybe that's like thought about going to a sex party but feels like it might be a bit intimidating. This is a good gateway.
Yeah, so like I say, in my head I had sort of thought of sex parties as being maybe this sort of slightly, like, I don't know what the word is, but like a scandalous type thing, if you know what I mean. And because my whole knowledge of them had come from investigative like news reports and things, which isn't sort of ideal, and I sort of thought of it as this like kind of like big deal, when actually it's just people having fun, and why not? I think it's a good thing. And if you'd have asked me a year ago, there is no way I would have expected to have joined an online sex party, or be considering going to an actual party, or be speaking to people like you about it, going, yeah, it's great, everyone should do it. There is no way I would have ever expected.
I'm so glad you
happen.
did, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that is one way to spice up your Zoom calls. Thank you for the inspiration.
Thank you, Carla.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
So, Paisley, for this week's question, we've got a question from one of our listeners.
Trill.
I feel like I want sex more than my partner, and I find it hard not to take it personally when he doesn't want to. Is this normal, and how do I stop it from upsetting me? The sex we do have is great, and I really care about him, which is why I want it all the time.
Yeah, thank you so much for sending this question in. J'adore a listener queue. We spoke to sex therapist Karen Gurney last week, and she said that mismatching sexual desire in a relationship is a really common issue. So I don't want this person to feel like they're alone or weird or anything, because it is totally normal. And when it comes to sexual desire and how much sex you want, there is no normal. So maybe you and your partner just experience sexual desire differently. But at the same time, I know what it's like when you want to have sex with someone and they say no. Like, it can feel really hurtful and like a rejection, and you can take it really personally. So I just wonder if you've had a chat with him about it. Have you told him how you feel and asked him why he doesn't feel like it? Like, maybe he might turn around and say, oh, I'm stressed or I'm tired. And then that way you'd have the reassurance that it isn't that he doesn't want to have sex with you. It's just that, you know, he's not feeling it. And then hopefully that would make you feel more relaxed. But Karen also said to us that it's really important to think about why you want sex. Is it that you want to have an orgasm and you're horny? Or is it that you just want to feel close to him or experience some intimacy? Because if it's because you're horny, you can go and have a wank and you don't need him for that. You can sort yourself out. I feel like Laura's probably hating this. But if it's because you like the intimacy that comes with sex, why don't you compromise and like have a cuddle or a snog or just hang out and kind of remember that you don't always have to just get intimacy from sex. You can get it in other ways. basically just be honest about how you both feel and then chat about it and come to a solution together. But it's not the end of the world, I reckon, Elsie.
No, I'd say it's a good problem to have. I know we're just quoting Karen now.
I know we love Karen.
But it shows that you do have that desire for him. And I don't necessarily think at all that it means the same. I think it's just that thing. I can totally imagine how she feels. It's like a personal thing. But I just don't think that's the case. I always think it's easy to see it from an outside perspective.
And also, I was just thinking, it's painted as if men have the higher sex drive and men should want sex all the time, when actually that's really not true. And that does a disservice to men and women. And so, you know, some people might think, oh, if I'm a woman and I want more sex than my boyfriend, that makes me weird. And it's like, no, not at all.
That's
people
so
just
true.
have differing sex drives and desires.
Exactly. You do you.
And have lots of wanks. That brings us to the end of this episode of Cosmopolitan's All the Way With. Thanks so much to Carla for joining us, and for you for listening. If you have any sex questions or dating dilemmas, please message us on Twitter or Instagram at Cosmopolitan UK.
Cosmopolitan's All the Way With was recorded remotely by Number 8 Studios and is available to download on Acast, iTunes and all the usual podcast apps. See you next week.
Bye.